Hello friends, let's see how this works. I'm sitting in a different location just because of the lighting, and there'll be some tapping in the background. I may or may not publish this video, but I felt like making it, so maybe it'll just end up being me talking to myself, and then if I publish it, it's me talking to you. So welcome you. And I'm Steve, and my interests are assisting myself and others to heal from traumatic events. And traumatic events are also spoken of as overwhelming events, that unexpected events that caused typically pain and suffering, and depending on how long that pain and suffering lasts is dependent on whether or not we release and integrate the emotions of that event. So my interest is finding better and better ways to release the emotions of these events. And so with that in mind, I've been working with some of the processes in the book Attuned by Thomas Hubel, Practicing Interdependence to Heal Our Trauma and Our World. And in doing one of the exercises, sensing versus imagining the ancestors, it was suggested that we think about the ancestral line that came down and ended up as us. So we had a mother and a father. We may have had stepmothers, stepfathers, and they had ancestral lines as well. But let's just keep it simple for now. Mother, father. Those both had a mother and a father. And so there were two lines coming in. And then they both of them had mothers and fathers. So it goes out exponentially. So our two parents, they go to 4, and their 4 go to 8, and their 8 go to 16, and their 16 go to 32, 64, 128. There's a lot of people in our line that all come together in us. So we represent our entire lineage, each of us, whether we're the firstborn, which are some old school thoughts on the firstborn, some thoughts on the secondborn, thoughts on the thirdborn, and thoughts on cats getting in the recycle container. Okay, so that's enough. So last evening, I never got to know my maternal grandmother or grandfather. My maternal grandfather, who I guess I'm the spitting image of, is something that's been said about me. So he passed away when my mother was 13, and she was born, around 1917. So, 19. It would have been around 1930 when her father passed away. And I've seen pictures of him, and then his wife, my mother's mother, passed away the year I was born. So my younger sister, my older sister, a couple years older than me, she, I guess, knew, on some level, they were connected. And even though she passed away when my sister was 2, my sister had fond memories of her. So But that's the person I chose in this exercise to tune into one of my ancestors. I chose my mother's mother. I've done some work with my mother's father already in this lifetime, but I was doing some work with my mother's mother. And so I just tuned into her last night, and I just sat with the energetic feelings of this person that I never in the physical realm met in this lifetime. And what ended up happening was that I ended up going into some very deep grief, which could have been the loss of her husband. She didn't lose any of her children as far as I know. And, but she lost her husband and she had 5 children. So my mother was the 3rd child, so she was 13. She had a younger sister, a couple of years younger than her, and a younger brother, a couple of years younger than, and then she had a brother, a couple of years older, and another couple of years older. So every couple of years there were these children. There were 5 in total. So the one was probably 15, the other one was 17 when their father died, the older ones. And 3, at the time, it was in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, that, my grandmother decided that there was no way that she was going to be able to raise and afford, even feed. That would have been during the time of the Depression. 5 children. So she put the 3 boys in the seminary. So she put them in Catholic school with the idea of them becoming priests. So 2 of them did become priests, and one of them dropped out and married a woman who was studying to be a nun. And so they're quite an interesting couple. I like them a lot. But tuned into my grandmother, and I was just filled with grief. And so I worked with it to my best ability. I think I worked with it in the dream world quite a bit. The idea was how we can release the legacy, emotional legacy of our ancestors by tuning into them and releasing whatever emotions arise that indicate that those are the emotions that are caught in our system based on maybe emotions that were caught in our ancestors' system. So that was interesting to me. I still found myself working with a lot of grief. This morning when I woke up, I've been working with a lot of grief for three months or so. So it's not like unusual, but it was interesting that I tuned into this particular person, and what I worked with was a lot of grief from doing that. So of course I looked up what today is in terms of the Mayan calendar, and I'm just going to look at one other thing relative to that. I just want to see if there's anything else going on today, but I don't see anything else. So so today is the last day of the first month. So that month is a 28-day month. There's 13 of them. That adds up to 364, and then there's a day out of time. So the first day of the year is the 26th of July. And so today is it's the 7th day of the 4th week. And the kin of today is, I think these things are just fascinating. Today is the white Worldbridger. And it has to do with the throat chakra. The white Worldbridger does. And the throat, in one of my models of reality, the throat, eyes, and ears have to do with grief and loss, as well as the lungs and the ovaries and the testes and the elbows and the knees. But it has to do with the throat, the white Worldbridger, and the 3 words. There's always 3 words with each kin, sometimes 4 if it's life force. That's kind of 1 word, but it's 2 words. But it has to do with 3 words. And the 3 words for white Worldbridger are equalizes, death, and opportunity. So there's a saying of the Maori people, I think that's how you say it, Maori or Maori, who I think are either New Zealand or Australia, Aboriginal people. But the saying that they have is, you were, you will be, know this while you are. Your spirit has traveled both long and afar. It rose from the source, to the source it returns. The spark which was lighted eternally burns. If this is true, which I perceive it to be true, I perceive there's only physical death, but in terms of the realms of spirit, soul, we just carry on. Maybe choose to come back here, maybe choose to be in a body again, and then incarnate into a body, and then oftentimes have relationships with the people we had relationships with previously. Maybe we shift up the relationship. Maybe we go from being someone's child to someone's parent. You know, it's some interesting things to consider. But the Worldbridger represents revelation, realization of the mortality of the physical body, the organic balance of life and death, the realm of neutrality, which facilitates bridging and connection, intimate exchange with the spirit of the ancestors. So last night I was doing the exercise of connecting with the ancestors. I chose my maternal grandmother and woke up this morning with a lot of grief energy relative to that connection with a person I never got to know in the physical realm other than through photographs. And my mom didn't talk about her. And I think that they had a very close relationship, but there was something, my mom talked about her dad a lot more than she did her mom. She didn't have anything bad to say about her mom, but she was kind of held her mom close to herself. As a force of equalization, the inevitability of death humbles us all. And as we contemplate how all things have an eventual ending, we are drawn into the richness of the now, with the perception that death equals opportunity. We find a sacred key that speaks not only of our imminent passing beyond this physical body, but also in regards to ego death. By continually shedding what no longer serves, we learn to yield to death as a natural overturning of cyclical processes. So aspects of ourself in some ways die in terms of our expression of that aspect of self. Sometimes that who we have been for a good portion of our life, it no longer serves ourselves or the world, and we just let that pass away, an expression of ourself. And that expression of ourself dies on some levels. By continually shedding what no longer serves, we learn to yield to death as the natural overturning of cyclical processes. Releasing identities and surrendering attachments grants us access to new worlds. And that's my model of reality, as we're coming into a new world. We've been in a 28-year cycle of cleansing between these two worlds. And that cycle of cleansing is due to complete on March 23rd of 2025. That will have been 28 years. 7 years of physical cleansing, 7 years of mental cleansing, 7 years of emotional cleansing, 7 years of spiritual cleansing, and we have 7 months left to go in the last 7-year cycle. Worldbridger asks, what within your life is asking to be let go of or ended to make way for a new cycle to begin? And I would say it's the past. I'll just give you an answer. You can have many different answers, but I'll just give you an answer that you could answer that question. What within your life is asking to be let go of? The past, the emotions of the past, the stories of the past. Because as you release the emotions and the stories of the past, then that then becomes integrated information that you can build your new reality utilizing. Because the past is useful. It's just a traumatic past with a lot of emotions attached to it. It's possibly time to release and integrate that. What within your life is asking to be let go of or ended to make way for a new cycle to begin? What is discovered when you contemplate our human mortality? How can we overcome fear of death and find trust in the journey of life? How can we honor the reality of death and all its facets as a sacred ally of life? Let us welcome the power of death to liberate us from self-defeating habits, fears, and limitations. A succinct mantra for aligning with Worldbridger power is, I surrender to opportunity. And from The Peace Pilgrim, which if you haven't read her book, I would read it. The Peace Pilgrim, when you know that you're only wearing the body which can be destroyed, that you are the reality which activates the body and cannot be destroyed, how can you be afraid? Okay, I hope this serves you well if I post it, and I hope it serves you well if I don't post it, and we'll find this little black dot, and I'll say, now let's go.